KOHA users. Today we're going to talk about item types. Item types are integral to your KOHA library. It helps you to define rules, set fines, do sort reports. Every district has a little bit different group of item types that they've probably had one person in their district be the librarian in charge for. So they have these admin rights. You may not all have this, but if you go to administration, and then you can see these item types, and there's a multitude of item types. The problem is when everybody starts adding different ones, it may also combine two different categories, or people will start choosing different ones. So we want to make sure that the one person is choosing your item types. So you can see we have several different item types. Where this comes into play is when you try and do a report. If we go back up here to reports, and we can do titles by various criteria. So if you're working on your library and you want to know certain things, you can sort by item type, and then you have all of your item types listed right here. So you could sort, I want to see what fiction books I have, and sort it by title. So if you were to do that, well, you're not going to get any results because none of the books in this library have item types attached to them. So to find out what item types, what books do not have item types, we look right here and we run this report, items with no item type. Now this is a temporary library that we've just put in. It's probably going to be a huge file. But you can see this one here, all of these books have no item types. And we could go on, and there's tons of them that have no item types. So how do I change all these item types? It's very time consuming to go back and check each one. You can do a control click, open the link in a new window, go to that item type as soon as it loads. And you go to that item type and you could edit it right here. Move that up. You can say, we know this is going to be, we look at the call number, we know it's going to be a fiction, so you change it to fiction. And then you save the changes. Well, you go and do that for over 500 books, you'll be there for quite a long time. But you see how it lists the call numbers right here and all the Dewey Decimal numbers. We can go through and we can go into tools and we can do set item type on copies. If we set the item type, and if we say it starts with an E, then I want it to be a fiction book. And then I set. This would be a time consuming, take a few minutes to run, so I'm not going to run it now, but it would tell you that it's set all the ones with an E into fiction. You would also do that for your Dewey Decimal System. You would do a 1 and then do nonfiction and set that. We'll do that one because it'll be short, hopefully. So you can see down, well, you can't see on your screen, but at the bottom of my screen it says it's waiting and it's working. And what this is doing is finding all the ones with the call number that starts with a 1, and it's changing that item type to fiction. So 45 copies were changed. So now if we go back, then we can do number 2, and then we do number 3, all the way up to the 9s, and then set your E's. Sometimes after you do that, you'll still find some stragglers, so you want to go back after you do the main ones, do reports, items with no item type, generate the report, and then look at it. And you may have some oddball ones. See, like this one, DIS. Okay, and that one you'll probably want to go in individually and change. But all of these E's, all of these with numbers, will all have been changed. Now again, why are item types important? Well, if you want to run any kind of reports, if you need to know how many fiction books you have, how many fiction books are being checked out, or nonfiction, and they're also very important in the circulation and fine rules. And that's where if you add multiple item types, it kind of gets confusing. So we'll look at that just quickly. We're not really going to go into circulation and fine rules, but if we go to tools and we look over here to circulation and fine rules, this right here is what sets all the rules for the books in your library, whether they can renew them, you're charging fines, they can check them out multiple times. All your libraries should have a default. So the default for a student allows for 3 checkouts for 14 days. For a textbook, 12 checkouts for 180 days. And you can see that there are renewals allowed on some things. This is the default that everything goes back to. I have a lot of librarians that tell me, well, I've got textbooks and they're in the item type, but they don't renew, or they'll ask to be checked back in 14 days. Well, if you don't have this textbook rule set, then it's going to go to the default. So you always want to make sure that you have them set. Let's see if we've got one. No, these are all set at default. So the only thing that you'd have to do to change them is pick student, and let's say we wanted DVDs to only be checked out one time for 5 days, and we won't charge any fines, and we're not going to allow any renewals, okay, and we're not going to allow any holds, okay, and then you would click add, and then that sets a circulation rule for that. If I didn't set that rule, it would just fall back to this default and allow a student default under default, and it would be 10 checkouts for 28 days. And that may not be what you want. So if you need some help with circulation fine rules, I'll attach another video to the link here to show you how you can do those. But really what's most important is that you check your item types and you have those all cleaned up, because that affects everything else in your whole library. If you can run this report and have nothing show up, then that'll solve half the other problems you have in your library. I hope this helps. Feel free to contact me, Chris at sedck12.org, if you have any questions. Thanks.